BigTimeBats.com.
The Bruins are back in action tomorrow night on NESN. Last time they skated at home, that was the only goal of the game. In the shootout, Phil Kessel, 5th time he's won a game with a shootout goal, as he's got that shootout magic. And the Bruins looking to extend their home winning streak tomorrow night. It's New England Hockey Night back on NESN. Our coverage begins with WB Mason Bruins face-off live at 6:30 with Catherine Tappan and Rick Middleton, followed by the 7 o'clock puck drop between the Bees and another original 16, the Chicago Blackhawks. It's all tomorrow night as hockey is back on NESN. All the Red Sox facing Jeff Francis tonight. He got the win against Josh Beckett back in June. But the Sox have been on a tear in the postseason. 30 runs now in the last 3 games against the Indians. The entire postseason, a total now of 10 games, hitting .304 as a team and averaging 7 runs a game. We'll see if that can continue tonight. For more, back onto the field to Tina Servasio.
Tom, a lot going on inside the Red Sox clubhouse as we prepare for Game 1 of the World Series, and our Red Sox insider is here. Emily Benjamin from the Boston Globe, our World Series edition. Nice progression. I remember when we were out here for Game 1 of the ALDS. And Emily, big story, Game 4 still technically says TBA. Is it John Lester?
Well, what Terry Francona says is that they fully intend for John Lester to start Game 4. I'm not entirely sure why they're not making it official, but the answer is he gives his usual, you know, if someone gets hit off the shin with a baseball, things can change. If there's weather, things can change. But look in Game 4 to see John Lester pitching. It's pretty good story. It
is a great story. I was just going to ask you, a year ago, right now, late October, the kid was getting chemotherapy treatments for anaplastic large cell lymphoma, and now he's starting a World Series game.
Kurt Schilling was talking about this earlier, about how big this is. I mean, that, you know, when he gets on the mound, he'll be thinking about baseball, but, you know, in the end, he has come so far from where he was, you know, last winter, where he was last year when he was diagnosed. And, you know, you've got to imagine that he was pretty happy when he got the news. Terry said he was pretty excited to give that news.
And of course, the reason Lester is starting is because Tim Wakefield left off the roster with that ailing the back of his shoulder there. Now, to fill that hole, it's Kyle Snyder on the World Series roster. A lot of people are questioning why Snyder and not Julian Tavares.
I don't know that we've gotten the best answer on that. I mean, we've asked and asked. Essentially, what I've been told is that, you know, it's really sort of a performance thing. It really actually ended up coming down to not just Tavares and Snyder, but Tavares, Snyder, and Brian Corey, who played sort of a big role in September, kind of a surprise, which people probably didn't expect since Corey spent the entire season with Pawtucket. But he is a guy that the Red Sox do like a lot, a guy kind of like Snyder in that he doesn't have any options, so if you bring him up, you can't bring him back down. But they sort of value what he's going to bring. He also, though, not on the roster. I mean, the answer is, you know, Tavares just sort of fell off the map as September wore on. It's not a physical issue. He's going to be throwing a side session today.
Okay.
But you know, they decided to go with Snyder, which sort of leaves them without a real long man in that bullpen if they run into issues.
And just finally, how is the health of both David Ortiz's knee? We hear so much about it with him getting ready to play first base in Colorado, and also Coco Crisp after banging his knee on the wall, making that final catch in the ALCS.
Lots of knee injuries.
Yeah.
Coco was getting treatment today. You know, he was going to be looked at as he came out on the field, see how he was moving, things of that nature. As for David, he said yesterday that the knee is doing pretty well. He did not get a cortisone shot, so that isn't why the knee is doing well. You know, maybe 2 days off is good enough to get it at least a little better.
Right.
But he did not get another cortisone shot in that knee.
All right, we'll talk more tomorrow about the plan for how to use and when to use David Ortiz, and at least we know no cortisone shot for the big slugger.
All right, Tina, Emily, thanks very much. Don't forget the Boston Globe tomorrow, complete coverage of Game 1 of this World Series. A preview of number 2 against number 8, Boston College, taking on Virginia Tech, and Mike Reese on the possible return of both Richard Seymour and Troy Brown. It's all coming up as our coverage of Game 1 continues. And tonight's beautiful aerial shots brought to you by the DirecTV HD Starship, hovering over Fenway Park as the Fall Classic is back. Our AccuWeather forecast. They misspelled forecast, but we won't hold that against them. Champagne showers. So Red Sox Nation is hosting to taste that champagne again. Still a slight chance of precipitation here, and it's getting noticeably cooler. It has chilled out considerably. over the last hour that we've been on, and they expect that chance of precipitation to be moving out as the evening goes on. They expect this to be good weather for baseball tonight. It feels like October. It is October. It's time for October baseball. The World Series is here. Our team coverage from Fenway continues.
Tina Servasio in front of the Red Sox dugout. What does Josh Beckett think of this Colorado Rockies lineup that he's facing for the second time in the 2007 season? And how does Julio Lugo plan on turning on his offense tonight? I'll have the latest news from the Red Sox clubhouse and an exclusive interview with a Sox shortstop coming up.
I'm Don Orsillo. Coming up a little bit later, these Colorado Rockies made quick work of the Philadelphia Phillies and Arizona Diamondbacks. It was all good. The problem, 8 days off. Truly a problem last year for the Tigers. We'll find out from Clint Hurdle if it's a problem for the Rockies.
All right, Don, thanks very much. Red Sox hand the ball to their ace for Game 1. Josh Beckett makes his third Game 1 start of this postseason, and he has been nothing short of dominant in this postseason. After a 20-win season, the first in 2 Major League Baseball seasons, he's 3-0 with a 1.17 ERA. In the playoffs, he was MVP of the American League Championship Series with a couple of wins and an ERA of 1.93. The starting ace is brought to you by Ace Tickets. Call 1-800-MY-SEATS. You see the numbers when these two went head-to-head on June 15th. Neither pitcher lasted long. Both were above 100 pitches by the time that 5th inning ended, but plenty of offense in support of Francis. It was already a 6-0 lead after 5. Jeff Francis has developed into the ace of the Colorado staff. He's got a couple of wins in the postseason, winning Game 1 of the division series against the Phillies in Game 1 of the NLCS against the Diamondbacks. 2-0 with a 2.13 ERA. Hasn't pitched deep in either of those starts. A 6-inning start, a 6.2. A 6 2/3 innings start. Pitching on 12 days rest, you see the two lineups. As we've talked about the Red Sox tweaking their lineup to put the lefties down towards the bottom of that lineup tonight. David Ortiz, of course, batting third, but J.D. Drew moves down to 7th. Jacoby Ellsbury batting 9th. And the big roster move announced yesterday for the World Series is that Tim Wakefield is not on the roster. This is Tim Wakefield earlier today here, but not able to play. There was talk that he may be the Game 2 starter, but was barely able to make it through that start against Cleveland, and he is not on the roster. Kyle Snyder, the reliever, taking his spot on the 25-man World Series roster. So the Red Sox and Rockies are ready to go. The Red Sox averaging 7 runs a game here in the postseason. For more, back onto the field, Tina Servasio is with Gordon Eads of the Boston Globe.
Well, all eyes on Major League Baseball right here, right now, Fenway Park, but there's still plenty of news and notes in our MLB notebook. And Gordon, while there's so much fanfare, we're listening to the music pumping through the speakers right now, there's some serious news to talk about in Major League Baseball and some of the ball players close to the Red Sox organization that have been affected by these fires in Southern California.
Well, that's exactly right, Tina. And I had the opportunity before Mark Loretta began his playing career with the Red Sox to visit with him and his family in Rancho Santa Fe, which is just north of San Diego, one of the areas hardest hit by these wildfires. Both Loretta, who's now a free agent after playing the last season with Houston, and his Astros teammate Brad Ausmus were both forced to evacuate. Ausmus thought his house was going to be okay. No word yet on Loretta. Wow. David Justice, a longtime Atlanta Brave, Cleveland Indian, Yankee, his house burned to the ground according to one of his ESPN colleagues. I believe Phil Nevin's house was also impacted. I mean, there's a lot of guys, of course, who are either from Southern California or have moved there. So yeah, it's a pretty grim situation.
Yeah, that's some devastating news to talk about in Game 1 of the World Series. There are a lot of things going on outside of Boston, if you can believe it or not. Yankees manager search is getting intense now. We could hear pretty soon. What's the latest?
Yeah, and you know, I think it kind of dovetails with the news of the Yankee interview search. The fact that Tony La Russa did return to the Cardinals as manager, which basically leaves then the Yankee search to 3 guys: Joe Girardi, Don Mattingly, and Tony Pena, who was interviewed today. Pena and Girardi, of course, have prior managing experience. Mattingly now is very open about the fact about how much he wants the job. He said when he took the job as hitting coach with the Yankees, from the very first day, he knew what he wanted, and that was to be the manager of the Yankees. I would think that if it was the people's choice, you know, given Mattingly's popularity as a player, he would be a highly popular choice. But and you know, Peña's candidacy, of course, hurt by the fact the way his managing career in Kansas City came to such an abrupt end. He, of course, has spent the last couple of years there as a coach. I would have to think that Mattingly's a favorite, Girardi second, Peña 3, if I was a handicapper, Tina.
All right, Gordon's going with Johnny Baseball as the next manager of the Yankees. Now, speaking of the Yankees and Red Sox, I mean, we've called Johnny Damon a turncoat so many times. There's apparently a turncoat coming the other way. I mean, is this a political stint by Rudolph Giuliani, or is he really rooting for the Red Sox?
Well, Tina, you know, rather than you or I answering that question, why don't we let the New York Post answer that question? This was the headline in the New York Post this morning. I mean, Rudy, of course, a consummate Yankee fan, always sitting front and center during their World Series and all, makes an appearance in a Boston restaurant and suddenly announces the fact that he's rooting for the Sox in this World Series. Tried to explain it off by saying, well, you know, if the Yankees aren't in it, of course I'm an American League fan. I'm going to be rooting for the American League team. Rudy, I'm sorry, brother. That's not going to wash. You know, that's probably pandering of the highest order. Kind of like Hillary switching back and forth between being a Cubs fan and a Yankee fan. But I guess that shows that both political parties are equal opportunity baseball fans, at least at election time.
All right, Gordon. Good seeing you here with the latest from around the league. Tom, now back to you.
All right, thanks very much. We're here with the chairman of the Red Sox, Tom Warner, and we're going to talk a lot about the World Series, but real quickly, they started by talking about the tragedy in Southern California right now, the wildfires. You obviously spent a long time and still do.
I know lots of people who've been affected by this. This is a very serious catastrophe, but what I hear is that the situation is better today than it was yesterday, and I think everybody's heart goes out for these people who've been displaced, who've lost their homes.
No question about that. As you said, it sounds like the news today a little bit better for the first time, which is certainly great news for everyone who has a loved one out there or knows someone. Meantime, here we are on October 24th. The World Series back in Boston. You know, something about this team. Theo Epstein had a great comment saying, we found this team's identity in Game 7. We really didn't know. They hadn't played a must-win game, and then they played 3 of them in a row, and 30 runs later, they're in the World Series.
Well, it's a cliche, but this team really has no quit to it. And we were always very confident that we were one of the elite teams in the American League, but I was worried about the Cleveland Indians. They're an awesome ball club, and I think that we played them very even for 7 games, and we got some timely hits at the end, but we are the champions of the American League, and we're still playing baseball. Everyone else is playing golf.
Are you worried about the Colorado Rockies? I think Red Sox fans are feeling pretty confident coming into this. If you're a Red Sox fan, you have
to be a little bit worried. I know that we're prohibitive favorites in Las Vegas, but you also know baseball is a funny game, and a bounce here, a bounce there. I'm particularly concerned about Jeff Francis. He shut us out the last time he pitched against the Red Sox. And any team that's won 20 out of 21 games, you better not take lightly.
Yeah, I was saying before, this might be the first time since 1918 that you're a heavy favorite coming into the World Series.
It's funny to be the favorite. We're usually David against Goliath.
And now here you are, the team going into this. And you know, you've had 2 days. I know they've had 8 days. They've been just waiting to play some baseball. How did you spend the last 2 days? Probably answering the phone a few times and answering a few messages.
I got maybe 1 million ticket requests.
By the way, we'll talk later after this segment. You know, this team came together so well, and you have young guys as well. We knew Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz would respond to the big stage, but when you watch a player like Pedroia, Kevin Youkilis really in his first playoff action, that has to be especially gratifying to see the young players become a big part of this.
Well, when David Ortiz said, you know, if we're going to win, the little guys need to hit. I never thought Kevin Youkilis was a little guy, but I guess if you're David Ortiz, we're all little.
Now we're sitting here, Game 1 at Fenway Park. Not because you had the best record in baseball this season, but because the American League won the All-Star game.
That's right.
We've talked about the pros and cons.
I love that role. I like it in 04. I like it in 07.
Everyone in New England loves that role now. And Josh Beckett was the winner in that game. So we should give him props to that.
It's a great role.
It's a great role today as we sit here. Little problem Sunday night compared to last time around. It looked like the city, the fans, everyone worked together Sunday night. There were very little problems after the celebration.
I think everyone had a great feeling, and And I think there was some understanding of what happened in '04, and people were respectful of the situation. I thought the Boston police and the mayor handled it great, and let's hope we have one more party, though.
And Josh Papelbon had all his clothes on while he was dancing on the field.
He ought to go on Dancing with the Stars.
You're the producer. You can get that done. Now, as we talk about fans leaving on Sunday, the fans arriving here at 6:30. I thought it was pretty cool. You guys were right out there.
Well, John Henry and Larry Lucchino and I thought that we wanted to be respectful and thankful to the fans, and we greeted them the first day that we took over the franchise, and we greeted them tonight and said thank you for your patronage. And you know, we handed out to the children World Series pins. I remember as a kid wanting to covet something that was a souvenir of the World Series. So I think there are a lot of children who are guarding that pin right now.
Oh, that's cool. And congratulations, by the way, you're our DinTrophy.com play of the game. So
excuse me?
You're our DinTrophy.com play of the game. You just put up there. So, you know, when you come into ownership and you get a team to the World Series twice in 4 years, you deserve credit. So congratulations.
Well, you know, you have to pinch yourself. I think the first time in '04, I think we were so stunned. I mean, we just were really confused. And this time we're appreciating. I think the fans are appreciating it too, because it's a different feeling. I don't think there's as much anxiety as there was in '04, because we just felt like we really had come so far in '04 and hadn't won a championship in 8 decades. And I think we're now a little bit more confident, but you know, you win once, you want to win again.
You know, I want to ask you finally, Tom, in '03, that devastating Game 7 loss at Yankee Stadium, and I remember John Henry and you talking after that series about we will do what it takes to get this team back. You did, and in '04, you won the World Series. Last offseason, very similar comments. We will treat this offseason like we did in '03, and Daisuke Matsuzaka was the biggest acquisition of the offseason, but you made moves, and for so much to go right and come together, you need some luck along the way, but you need to go out and be a very good team, and you've done that. There's a very similar offseason.
You know,
the way you put this together.
Our hats are off, though, to everybody in baseball ops, and the players, obviously, they have to perform. But when Manny went down, Ellsbury came through, and Ortiz, he didn't have as many home runs this year, but his on-base percentage was .455. And, you know, up and down the lineup, we were performed. And I saw Tim Wakefield before the game, and I know he was a little bit down, and I said to Tim, you know, we wouldn't be here without your performance this year. The man pitched, he must have pitched 200 innings this year. Won, what, 17 games?
17 wins.
And this was a real team effort.
Well, congratulations, and
thanks, Tom,
hopefully you can enjoy the next 4 to 7 days.
We want to win another one of these.
You've got plenty of fingers available. Tom Warner with us here on stage. We'll take a break and come back as you look down at the Brew. That says it all. Those are the 2 words on everyone's lips in New England. Go Sox, as the Red Sox open up the World Series quest tonight. Thanks very much. We are at Rem Dogs on Yawkey Way, as the place is now packed, streaming in here. People lucky enough to get a ticket, beg, borrow, buy a ticket here to the World Series Game 1 coming up. Patriots didn't exactly sound overly enthused, but
well, it sounds like they're working on their game plan for this weekend and getting to bed early. I don't blame them.
At least that's what they're saying. You don't want Coach Belichick to.
You got to be a little more excited than that, don't you?
Not Belichick.
I guess
not publicly. The one thing the Patriots do well is they say nothing publicly. So, you know, they're going to keep that to themselves. One of the neat things about this, they don't play the same position, but you got a couple of middle infielders here who've started all season, probably going to win their Rookies of the Year award. Let's talk first about Tulowitzki, who has, what, 24 homers is a rookie record for National League shortstops.
Well, he's both sides of the baseball, Tom. I mean, he's, you know, he hits with power. He drives in runs, and he's a terrific fielder. And, of course, his idol is Derek Jeter. And here's a kid that wears number 2 in the back, just like Jeter, and he's a special player. We saw that the first time in here against the Boston Red Sox. You know, for a rookie to be at that position and to play the way he has, everybody that I've talked to in the National League that has watched the Colorado Rockies consistently just really has nothing but great things to say about him. He's a star waiting to happen. Matter of fact, he might already be a star.
I've never seen anybody get so much attention over the last month. You know, when he was here back in, I don't know when it was, June, nobody said too much about him, but you look at those numbers there, and he's built like Cal Ripken, a big boy.
Big
so there's no telling where he's going to end up doing. I mean, he's already started with 24 home runs and 99 RBIs as a rookie. Now, he may not even get the Rookie of the Year because the kid from Milwaukee might, Braun, but that shortstop position means anything, he might get it.
Well, in the American League, we all expect Dustin Pedroia to get that Rookie of the Year award, and say what you will, he had a great season, obviously, and has really stepped it up at this stage as well. The 5 RBI the other night broke that game wide open.
Well, the combination of he and Youkilis getting hot at the same time really made a difference in the Red Sox offense in that series against the Cleveland Indians. And look at the gaudy numbers by Pedroia over the last 3 games. I mean, my goodness, 7 for 13, 5 RBIs, hitting the home runs. I mean, he was doing everything. So, yeah, you've got 2 real good rookies, you know, one at second base for the Red Sox and one at shortstop for the Rockies, who, you know, are terrific players, both of them, and don't seem intimidated at all by postseason play.
And I'll tell you what a way to go through your first rookie season. Not only do you have a great year, but, you know, to do what he's done in the playoffs. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. Game 7, you hit a crucial 2-run home run off a guy that had been lights out Betancourt. So, I mean, this kid has had really like a magical year, and he's going to finish it off with a World Series.
That's why it's impossible to predict these things. You know, everybody wants, you know, they pick, we'll take this guy in 6 and 7. You don't even know who the stars of the series are going to be. You really don't. You know, you just put so much attention on guys like Manny and David, but yet it's a guy like Pedroia that's the difference in the game the other night. Who knows who the star of this series is going to be? There's no way to predict that.
And even within a series, you could have made a lot of predictions after Game 4 of that Cleveland series, and guys who were, you know, Pedroia hadn't really come to life yet. Those last 3 games, he and Youkilis just jumped in.
That's perfect. I was just going to say that. When those guys got, you know, I tell you what, they put pressure on the Cleveland Indians throughout the whole series, if you think about it. But up until the last 2 games, they really had damage. Both of them 6 for 12 or whatever it was. But you think about what happened in that series. How many double plays was there? I mean, unbelievable.
14, which was a major league record.
It just goes to show you, Cleveland was kind of a little branch work there. They were pretty lucky, fortunate to get out of a lot of those innings, you know, whether it was Westbrook or whoever else it was. So they almost won the thing. I mean, it would have been incredible to look back at that and have lost that, but they came back, and talking about the first 2 guys in the lineup to do it the last 2 games.
And again, going back to that series, I still can't believe to this day that Sabathia and Kimona could not win 1 game in that playoff.
And to think that they cost them.
To see them each twice, 4 games
not
against those guys, not 1 win out of them. You thought if that would happen, that you'd sweep them.
Yeah.
But instead, they somehow battled to the 7-game series. Who knows is right. I mean, you never expected Westbrook and Bird to be the big 2 for the Indians. All right now, Tina Cervasio is with Jackie McMullen of the Boston Globe.
Well, Jackie, with your latest commentary, let's talk about the Colorado Rockies, the champions of the National League. And as hot as they are, there's still a couple hitters that have been struggling in the postseason. How should that affect them today when they were very prolific against Josh Beckett back in June?
Well, you know, you're right, Tina. This lineup, they've got their own problems. Todd Helton's hitting about 150. Garrett Atkins is under 200. Their great rookie shortstop, Tuwitsky, is under 200. Now, remember, Garrett Atkins is the one that hit the grand slam off Josh Beckett when they were back here in June. But I am sure from both clubhouses that they would tell you that is such ancient history. What happened here in June has nothing to do with the pitcher that Josh Beckett is now, because he's a completely different guy.
And you talk about Josh Beckett. Yesterday, the word locked in was used so many times. Talking about Beckett in October, you've covered many Red Sox teams.
I have.
The names have been brought up today a lot. Comparisons. Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens. What are your thoughts?
You know, I was there in '86 with Clemens. I was there in '99 with Pedro. Beckett has that same mindset that you see. It's a calm. People talk about being locked in, the intensity. To me, it's a calm. You see it in their eyes. Even when something goes wrong, their expression doesn't change. Nothing wavers, and that's what Josh Beckett is like right now. And Schilling called him earlier today the best pitcher on the planet. And you know, at this exact moment, he's right.
Now, with that, with Schilling calling him that, and everyone talking, you know, making the comparisons today, does that get in Beckett's head at all, or is the type of person he doesn't even hear it?
Yeah, you know, I've seen a dramatic change in Josh Beckett's demeanor from this year to last year. I don't know about you, and this guy isn't dealing with any of us or anything. He has got the blinders on. I don't know if that's something that John Farrell brought with him when he came. I think John Farrell's had a major impact on how well Josh Beckett has pitched. But this guy, that's why everybody keeps talking about being locked in, because the outside distractions are just that. They're outside this little bubble that he's put himself in, and I think that really serves you well this time of year.
Yeah, I agree. You talk about the blinders, but there's still a relaxed nature about him. Now
I'll say.
Yeah. Terry Francona, news today that they will offer him an extension. I mean, finally he's making headlines as the manager that he deserves.
Yeah, I can't believe it took this long. You know, people talk about Joe Torre, they talk about Tony La Russa, all these great baseball minds. All I know is Terry Francona's gotten this team here for the 2nd time in 4 years. It's really, really difficult to get to a World Series. He's done it with completely 2 different lineups. and he's done it with a lot of challenges. People like Manny Ramirez, who I think would try any manager's patience. He's handled it all very well. Whatever goes on in there, we rarely hear about it. That to me is a sign of a manager that has the respect of his players. When you don't have the respect of your players, all sorts of stuff leaks out. That doesn't happen with this team.
All right, Jackie, good seeing you here and hearing your commentary on the Red Sox and Colorado Rockies getting ready for Game 1. Tom, back to you.
Tina, Jackie, thanks very much. There it is, the Red Sox on the side of the base that'll be used in the World Series Game 1 here at Fenway Park on Yankee Way, where the crowd is ready for the Fall Classic to begin.
Coverage of Terry Francona's press conference is brought to you by Sullivan Tire. Always here to get you there.
83 years ago, Notre Dame coach Knute Rockne devised the vaunted backfield known as the Four Horsemen. After a victory over Army, Grantland Rice wrote, "Outlined under a blue-gray October sky, the Four Horsemen rode again." Now, in 2007, the Boston Red Sox may have their own version of the Four Horsemen. Beckett, Schilling, Matsuzaka, and Papelbon. Can these Four Horsemen take the Red Sox to the promised land this fall, outlined under a blue-gray October sky?
Play with us 2 out of 3 games. I know enough about them now to know that they've won a lot of games out of a lot of games. And they feel really good about themselves. And then they have a lineup that, I heard Josh at the tail end, they have an American League lineup.
All right, Terry Francona on his opponent in the World Series. Here's our stat of the day. The team that wins Game 1 has won the World Series 63 out of 102 times. You do the math. I think that means 59 times the team that lost Game 1 has lost, but they've won 9 of the last 10 World Series, so that's more of the trend. Now, what do you like? Let's make our predictions here. What do you like?
Now, you guys already made yours. You go first,
All right,
DC.
I picked the Red Sox in 6 games.
And I say Red Sox in 5. They may lose 1 in Colorado.
I don't think it's going to be a sweep, so I'm going to have to switch over to 7. I think it's got to be 7. I think Red Sox fans are going to see a pretty good Colorado club.
How much will the effect be in Colorado on Red Sox pitching? We've heard about the humidor and the altitude. We've talked a lot about that big outfield. There's a lot of room to hit that ball.
It's a different ballpark than it was 3 or 4 years ago. I don't think it's going to have a major effect at all.
Is it important to win tonight? In that Cleveland series, if they didn't win the Beckett starts, they don't win. Do they need to win this game?
I think this is probably the big game, you know, Beckett, because Beckett may win this game and then come back, like I said, and win the 5th game, and then we go home.
If the Rockies beat Beckett tonight, they've already beaten him early in the season. They have tremendous confidence after the long layoff. That's critical too. So this big. Every Game 1 is big.
It's the World Series.
I'll take the Sox in 3. How about in 3? Is that all right?
We'll talk. I'll get him to update that after the game. Final out. Come on back to NESN. We'll be here right after the game. Actually, we'll be in our studio, but you get the idea. Because it's World Series time. There's only one October. Haven't you heard? Red Sox taking on the Colorado Rockies in the Fall Classic. Game 1 coming up. We'll see you right after the final out.